Hello and welcome to 7 Days of Science. In the headlines this week, scientists warn of the dangers of creating mirror life, the oldest saber-toothed predator ever has been discovered, a new species of dinosaur has been named, and much more. Christmas is nearly here, and that time of panic to get the last of the Christmas gifts is now. Perhaps one such gift could be a Curiosity Box subscription. At the time of this video, the winter box is running low, so if it's still in stock, then grab it quick if you want a book of some of the first sci-fi short stories, a rainbow chocolate mold, an actual working sundial, and more. If the winter box does sell out, then Curiosity Box will be sending along their legacy box, which you can see the details using our all-important affiliate link below. Don't forget to use our special discount code FOSSIL for some great deals. Our top story this week is the publication of a report by numerous scientists detailing their concerns about creating artificial mirror life, stating that it could potentially have disastrous consequences for life on Earth. In all organisms, DNA and RNA molecules are made from right-handed molecules, while proteins are made from left-handed amino acids, meaning they can't be superimposed on their mirror images. But some researchers have been curious about what would happen if we created life based on the opposite mirror versions of these biological molecules. Such organisms would be radically different from all known life, and although the ability to create such organisms is at least a decade away, scientists have published their concerns about what could happen if we tried to create these synthetic life forms. Mirror bacteria, if created, could interact in unforeseen ways with other organisms, potentially being unaffected by immune systems and bacterial predators, since their mirrors molecules wouldn't be recognized. As such, they could cause disastrous infections in animal and plant populations, leading to ecological chaos, and potentially new lethal diseases in humans. The researchers call for extensive discussion on the path forward before more research into creating mirror life is undertaken. And while some other scientists don't see that mirror bacteria would cause much of an issue, it does seem like something that's better to be safe than sorry about. That's one rather terrifying science fiction scenario we just don't need happening. Also in the news this week, scientists have found that Saturn's rings may be much older than we thought. The age of Saturn's rings was actually changed fairly recently, as observations from NASA's Cassini probe showed Saturn's rings to be brighter and cleaner than we would expect from particularly old planetary rings. Using data from these missions, researchers estimated that Saturn's rings could actually be relatively new, perhaps even as young as just 100 million years old. This new research suggests that Saturn's rings could actually be escaping the micrometeorite pollution that we expected to see on older rings. Previous studies have talked about the micrometeorite debris that we thought would be deposited in the rings to float around and occasionally collide with the ice particles that make up much of the material in the ring. But using computer-based simulations, this team of scientists observed that after colliding with icy ring molecules, the remnants of the micrometeorites, now just nanoparticles and ions, would either be dragged into the gas giant itself or ejected out into space and away from Saturn's gravitational influence. This ever-changing research into Saturn's rings is incredibly important not only for our understanding of our own solar system, but also for our understanding of the universe at large, as Saturn's rings are the biggest in our solar system and therefore the best chance for us to study how structures like this may form and evolve in the wider cosmos. And a little bit of Perseverance news for fun now, as NASA's Martian rover has just completed a rather epic climb up a 4 billion-year-old crater that took months. After this Herculean effort, Perseverance now looks across a previously unseen and unexplored landscape, ready to rise to the challenge and expand our understanding of the Red Planet and, by extension, other alien planets. One of the primary goals for Perseverance is to look for and find evidence that Mars was once home to alien life. It currently houses 16 full and 11 empty tubes designed to carry bits of the Red Planet that could indeed hold this evidence, but getting them back to Earth to study them will be a serious challenge that we haven't quite worked out how we're going to tackle yet. If you want to hear Doug, Amelia, and myself discuss this in further detail, check out our first monthly news roundup discussion video that we've started doing for our rebranded 7 Days of Science Patreon. In the paleontology news this week is the exciting discovery of the oldest gorgonopsian found so far. It was found in rocks dating to between 280 and 270 million years ago. The gorgonopsians are one of the iconic groups of large land predators that lived before the dinosaurs. Among living animals, they are most closely related to us mammals, However, they were not mammals themselves, but were instead related to the ancestors of true mammals. This very ancient gorgonopsian has not yet been named as a new species, but a fair amount of the skeleton has been found, including a lot of the lower jaw, skull pieces, vertebrae, ribs, and an almost complete hind limb. It was discovered on the Spanish island of Majorca in the western Mediterranean, and although it was still rather small in size for a gorgonopsian, being about the size of a husky, it had very long saber teeth. This shows that it would have been a top predator of its environment, and considering its great age, older than any other gorgonopsian known to us, this now also makes it the oldest saber-toothed predator we've ever found. It also extends the known fossil record of the even broader evolutionary grouping that gorgonopsians, as well as true mammals, belong to, the therapsids, helping paleontologists to better understand how the ancient lineage we evolved from originated. At the time this gorgonopsian lived, these rocks in Majorca were part of the supercontinent Pangaea, and they represent what would have been a wet tropical environment near the equator. Interestingly then, this might suggest that therapsids, or at least gorgonopsians, first evolved in tropical ecosystems rather than temperate ones. Therapsid fossils are generally very rare from tropical paleo environments, so that's another interesting aspect of this find. It's a fantastic discovery overall and another very important piece in the puzzle of mammalian evolution. Also in the recent paleontology news, a new dinosaur has been discovered. This is a new species of sauropodomorph dinosaur, an early relative of the long-necked sauropods, and it was discovered in China. The rocks it was found in date back to the early Jurassic, so about 193 to 180 million years ago, and it's named Lishulong wangi. This dinosaur is actually known from a rather beautiful and almost complete fossilized skull, along with several neck vertebrae. Skulls are infamously rare to find for sauropods and their relatives, so this is a very exciting find. Not only that, but it's an especially large skull, being the biggest sauropodomorph skull found from this formation in China. The species is estimated to have been about 13 meters or 43 feet in total length, so this was already a pretty sizable animal. It's a great new dinosaur species, adding to the known diversity of this lineage from the early Jurassic, and also telling paleontologists more about how these animals were distributed across the ancient continents at this time. There's also been an interesting paper published this week investigating the timing of human-Neanderthal interbreeding. Looking at the genes of 59 ancient people and 275 modern humans, they found that the gene flow between species probably happened over a period of around 7,000 years, starting about 47,000 years ago. This therefore shows that there was a single extended period of Neanderthal gene flow into the common ancestors of all modern humans not of African descent. Interestingly, the genetic evidence also indicates that most of the natural selection that acted on the genes from Neanderthals happened relatively quickly, within 100 generations of the interbreeding happening. So genes that were beneficial to life in environments outside Africa, such as those relating to immune function and skin pigmentation, were found at high frequency, whereas other regions of the genome were shown to be devoid of Neanderthal genes, suggesting that they were not advantageous to survival and were quickly removed through selection processes. The period of interbreeding was also a very complex event, with some populations probably separating during those 7,000 years, and others seemingly continuing to mix for a longer time. This is another fascinating look at the genetic legacy left behind by our relatives in the human genome today. Also in the news, a pair of studies have just been published reporting on the discovery that skin has its own immune system, producing its own antibodies to combat infections. Researchers have found that mice subjected to a common bacterium found on human skin started to generate immune cells needed for producing antibodies, and they would last for a significant period of time. Even when other parts of the mouse immune system were disabled, the skin still generated this immune response. The researchers also investigated whether this response could be used to develop a new type of vaccine that can be applied directly to the skin surface without requiring needles. They successfully induced an immune response in the mice to the toxins produced by the tetanus bacterium, and this immune response then protected the mice when a lethal dose of the toxin was given to them. So, although much more testing is needed to see if this would also work in humans, it's a pretty fascinating discovery that opens up a whole new avenue of research into vaccines that could be applied simply by putting a cream on your skin. And finally, for the news this week, a team of amazing volunteers in Finland are spending 8 hours a day shoveling snow in a bid to help save the endangered Saimaa ringed seal. Nick told me how to pronounce that. A genuine Finnish man. Shout out. These seals were once more widespread in eastern Finland, but now just under 500 of them are left, and they are confined to Lake Saimaa in the southeast of the country.
Genuinely Finnish man,
yeah. as opposed to a fake Finnish.
Yeah, as opposed to the ones we see all the time.
Yeah. Their numbers declined to a low of 200 in the 1980s due to hunting and deaths caused by fish traps. They are now a protected species, but accidental deaths in fishing nets remain a problem. They're now facing yet another danger due to changing climatic conditions. Pups are born in snow caves built by their mothers, but in mild winters these dens can collapse before the pups are old enough to brave the outside world, leading to a 30% mortality rate. So this is where the volunteers have been helping by making snow dens for the seals. 300 volunteers have been shoveling snow into piles around the edge of the frozen lake. Last year they made 200, and it does seem to be helping as the number of seals is on the increase. These snow dens are larger and more durable than the natural ones. When the natural ones have melted, the human-made ones are still standing, keeping the pups safe. With global average temperatures increasing, it's expected that eventually there will come a time when there is not enough snow to even make the artificial dens, and that ice cover will disappear before the pupping season has ended. So the team is also developing another kind of artificial den, a little like garden nest boxes. There are already 40 of these on the lake, and 3 pups have been born in them so far. Let's go Finnish people. Well, that's it for the news this week. I hope you enjoyed learning about everything that's happened in these last 7 days of science. Be sure to check out the 7 Days of Science Patreon for some exclusive monthly news discussions with the 3 presenters, plus early access to the script for each weekly episode and more. Thank you to our current Cretaceous tier patrons, Andrew Cowham, Clara Middleton, Dhruv Srivastava, Gary Arrington, Gyotist, Corey Peterson, Lena Rose, Mendicant Fryer, Mike Pace, Monitor Man, Ralph Balzac, Robert Thomas, Sammy Voss, Timothy N. Tedrow, and Troy Schmidt. Thank you for your continued support, and we'll see you next week.